Welcome to another episode of Just Be. I'm John Emilio, and I'm along with my partner,
Henry Beltra.
And thank you, everybody, for coming back. For those of you who are listening, we're glad you're here, and we hope you get something out of today's episode. So before we go any further, as we usually do, let's start the episode with a quick guided meditation just to get us into that nice, calm headspace, because I can tell you right now, I've been running around up until the second I got here, so I could use this 1 minute to kind of...
I'll say we, and I'm not French. Yes.
to get myself into that nice headspace. So let's take a couple of deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And as we always do, whether you're sitting or standing, let's just try to keep focus on our posture. Let's have a little bit of awareness around our posture. It's not that it's super important, but it's good if we can keep that back straight if you're sitting down. Just keep taking some deep breaths, and if in through the nose and out through the mouth. And again, if you want to open your eyes and gaze around the room, that's absolutely fine. Just remember soft gazing, right? So we're not focusing, we're not getting stuck on one thing. We're going to focus on it, bring our attention to it. Let's try not to label it. If a label does arise, that's fine. If a thought does come in, that's fine. Just watch it pass also. In through the nose, try to hold that for a second, then release. Remember, always keeping your focus on either that breath, that scan of the body, or that soft gaze of the room. Keep doing this and you'll see why it's important. Little by little, you'll start honing that skill of being able to direct your focus where you want it. Take a few more. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more good one. If your eyes are closed, slowly open them. Just kind of be aware of where you are again. And the mind feels a little bit calmer.
Yep, a little bit.
Definitely I got a little closer. It took me down a notch. So.
Yeah, I needed that.
Yeah, no, we all do. We all definitely do. It's meditation is a wonderful thing, and you do not need to do it for 35 minutes. If you love to do it for 30 minutes or an hour, more power to you. That's phenomenal. But short intervals of it, 1 or 2 minutes here, multiple times a day, if you can, is great. It's just perfect enough to keep recentering yourself throughout the day. So, Henry.
Yeah.
What's new?
I'll tell you what's new, man. Okay. So, the purpose of this show is already stated over and over again. I got to tell you now. So me being right next to you, something happened to me this week. And when I say this week, literally a few days ago, where I was able to actually employ what we talk about here every week, like hardcore, real time, because I was having the beginnings of what I thought was a minor little panic session. Okay. Anxiety doing its thing,
Absolutely.
Anxiety came from the back and said, "Hey, I'm here," and popped up out of nowhere, and I freaked out. To completely honest, it had me freaking out. I'm not gonna go into the subject matter of what it was, but I will go into that. My heart started racing, things started going, thoughts start flowing, and so it took me a quick second, quick second meaning a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, to say, okay, let's deploy some actions here.
Okay.
Because we're on a fight here. We're in a fight. Apparently, somebody wants to take over my emotions and take over my thoughts, and that is not going to happen. So, if I can describe it in any way, it was one of those things where I visualized myself, and then I visualized a gap of air in between anything else. So basically it was me in the center and a gap of air so that nothing is touching me.
Okay.
Okay, so the thought was the thought had itself wrapped around myself.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I said, okay, and I played in the background everything that basically we kind of have talked where, you know, you don't have to give in to the feeling. You don't have to give in to what's going on in your mind. And so that quick, you know, and things escalated quickly because it started with a small little anxiety, and
It'll snowball on you very quickly, especially if there's like zero awareness there. It'll just grab you and take you for a ride.
and it got me off guard. You know what I mean? Like, it was very off guard. And then I said, okay, employ some strategy here. And I said, okay. Quickly, I went into the meditation mindset, but I couldn't successfully meditate anything.
Ooh, so when you say successfully meditate,
Yep, I couldn't.
All
All right, so I
have a question.
yeah.
about
So
that.
if I could compare it to real life, it's as if I am going to get on top of this thing and strangle it, and I wasn't doing it. So my way of doing it was, okay, settle down and think. Take a moment. It wasn't happening. It was.
It sounds like you were trying to
Force it out.
Yeah, man. It
Yeah.
sounds like you were trying to. You said a word before, and I didn't want to interrupt you, so I let you keep going. You said a word. I felt like I was in a fight with this thing.
Yeah.
That is not the approach you ever want to take, right?
Right.
Because now when you're in a fight, you're engaging it. The point is to allow it, literally, the uncomfortable feeling, to allow it to unconditionally be there, to accept that it is there, and eventually your mind stops giving it importance, and those feelings start to kind of wither away quicker and quicker. But as long as, like, what you persist resists, so it sounds like you wanted to, like, come on, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get rid of this
Yeah.
anxiety, 4 deep breaths, come on, let's go. You're actually engaging it by doing that.
100%.
So you said the meditation wasn't successful, and I was going to say, what do you mean it wasn't successful?
Right, because
There's no such thing
I
as a
wasn't really
unsuccessful-
doing it. It was more so I was fighting it, and I said
That's different.
I'm gonna get
Gotcha.
quiet to fight it.
Gotcha.
But I ended up in a good place. So
Okay.
this happened on, I think it was Tuesday, and I ended up in a good place in the sense that I was aware that thought had jumped in, and I was aware that at any time I could activate it, or at
Yeah.
any time I could
Gotcha.
give it the importance that I wanted. But I didn't, and I was fine. That was Tuesday. Wednesday it came up again.
A little bit of the anxiety, or
The same thought, and there comes the anxiety, the anxious feelings.
thoughts usually are the one are yeah.
So first
that's
the
how it
thought,
usually works. Yeah.
then the anxious feeling,
yeah, the thought.
and then I kind of looked at it like, oh, you gonna try this again on me? And everything was a little bit cooler in the sense it didn't. If my first situation on Tuesday lasted in and out for, let's say, 3 hours or 4 hours, I mean, in and out in the sense it tried to come back. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And I let's say I forced it, or I tried to force it, or try to, let's say, control myself, right? Control my reaction to it.
Okay.
As because I was successful on Tuesday on, let's say, getting to a good spot. My heart rate was down. I wasn't focusing on the thought. And I can actually even tell myself, because the thought is something that provoked anxiety in me, I can even tell myself, hey, let's go back and let's look at that thought. And I did. Let's go back and let's look at that thought. And I thought that would be a little scary given that it.
Well, that's the point of in therapy. When you have anxiety, it's you go against the grain. They say go against the grain, meaning go towards the anxiety, right? So if you have an anxious thought about A, the point is not to run away from that thought. It's actually lean into it and to say, hey, I know you're here. I know you want to be scary. I get it, but I'm going to be here with you.
Yeah.
Right? So in a therapeutic way, like what I learned in therapy when I was in therapy years ago is, especially with OCD, is they want you to lean into that anxiety, whatever that intrusive thought might be or
Yeah.
that fear might be. They want you to lean into it, but not with the hopes, well, I don't say with the hopes, not with the purpose of, I'm going to lean into it just so you go away now. I'm going to lean into this, but you got to leave. You got to play nice, right, anxiety? I'm going to do what I have to do, but you got to do your part. Now you got to disappear. So that's like back talk. That's not going to, it's double talk. That's not going to work because all you're doing is saying you're leaning into it, but you're still saying you're leaning into it, but you got to go.
All right.
So it's leaning into it and saying, you don't have to leave. I know I don't like the racing heart. I don't like the sweaty palms if you're having a physical sensation to it, right? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But it's saying, I know you're here. I don't like it. I don't want you to be here, but I'm totally okay with you being here. So like I'm trying to put it into words.
Yeah, yeah.
Where in your mind, you're more like, it's here, and I'm refocusing my attention on what I want to do. With it here, I don't expect it to leave. The more you don't expect it to leave, the quicker in time it eventually goes on its own, because those markers in your mind are now, and this isn't spiritual, this is actually like therapeutic. Those markers in your mind are now, your mind's actually taken, Henry's not reacting. Henry's not reacting. And I don't say not reacting physically. I mean not reacting, engaging. Henry's not reacting. And as those markers get taken off, that hierarchy gets lower and lower. Your mind's like, well, Henry doesn't give a shit about this anymore. Okay. Or Henry, this isn't affecting him anymore, so let's not throw the alarms off, guys. Hey, shut the alarms down. Let's slow the heart down. Let's slow the sweaty palms down. We can make this all go away because this isn't a threat to Henry. We're not getting the feeling that this is a threat because he's not engaging us. He's not telling us, oh, yeah, I got this. So you could, it's...
Well, okay. So I already told you about Tuesday. Wednesday, try to come back. And I guess it's always there. It doesn't really just. I would say if I treat it like
the thought is always there, or you're saying the.
Yeah, apparently it's one of those things that lives in the basement of my.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, everybody has a thought that lingers.
So and Wednesday I dealt with it much more successfully.
Okay, good.
And
great.
to the point that Thursday I would say it didn't bother me at all, and Friday is now, and when I bring it up again, just because it's pertinent to what we're doing, and I can still live with, all right, it provokes the the beginning of an anxiety, but it's almost as if to say, I know what you're trying to do, I know what you're trying to do, relax, it's all good. And that's kind of how I got out of it, in a sense. I'm going to call it a trance, you know what I mean, like where all of a sudden, if you don't notice, it creeps up behind you, and all of a sudden you're in a trance, or better yet, you're in a dance. You're now in a...
Oh, absolutely. So it'll grab you and pull you in as quickly as it can. And so what I always try to tell people is always understand your mind is not trying to hurt you, right? Is when you look at your mind or the ego, which the ego is a thinking mind. When you look at the mind or the ego as an enemy, that only engages it more. When you make it the enemy, because it's not the enemy. None of these are the enemy. They're there to protect you. They're just misguided at times, or they're fed misinformation. It's not a perfect system that understands everything. It's going to take this information and say, we got to tell Henry this is important. This is important. In the grand scheme of your life, it might have some importance, but on a really grandiose level, it's really not. Nothing really is of that importance. It really isn't.
You don't even know what it is, but everything you said makes sense.
Yeah, so it's, and I really don't know what it is. You just told me about this now on air.
Yeah, I'm not even going to share it because I know I have people.
And that's not the point, but the more you make anxiety or depression or whatever you're dealing with, doesn't even have to be a quote unquote mental health thing, right?
Yeah.
It could be a real life situation that you're actually dealing with. When you make it the enemy, you actually are energizing it to be more of an issue than it actually is, because
you give it more importance.
You give it more importance. At the end of the day, our time on this planet is very, very short, comparatively speaking, right? We are but a blip. Yeah. We're a blip in the grand scheme of the universe, if even we're a blip.
Yeah.
When we think that our situations that we deal with on a daily basis are the end of the world, we make them the end of the world. And I'm not saying that people don't have struggles in life, whether it's financial, health issues, marital issues, work issues. We could spend 20 minutes on talking about what issue you might have.
Sure.
Those issues are always going to be there, but do we want to make that issue more than it actually is, where now our life is completely disrupted because something's not going the way we would like it to be going. And when we do that, we actually steal energy from trying to resolve an issue and energize the side of this that just keeps you stuck in this holding pattern of, this is the worst, I hate this. If that's kind of the path that you end up going down. But
Well, I have a question,
yeah,
and then I have, first I have a comment, then I have a question. The comment is, I think because I'm in this chair, I was able to quickly get through that situation.
Great,
And you know what I mean? Deal with it.
absolutely.
And so that really, really helped, because it's also partly why I'm in this chair. As you know, I've dealt with anxiety and depression I'm going to say my whole life, because that's what I can remember.
No, I'm same boat.
But anxiety was severe for me. And this was one of those situations where it could have definitely snowballed into a much bigger anxious situation. And it didn't.
That's awesome.
And I was really happy that, oh man, like by Tuesday, I was already happy that I had fought back. I had, yeah, there you go. Yeah. But
You accepted it and you surrendered to it.
But good for you to correct me, because
but because the language, believe it or not, holds so much weight.
yeah,
We don't realize it.
well, because I haven't deprogrammed fully.
That language has so much weight.
I'm in the middle of my iOS reboot. Yeah, and I still haven't. You know when it's
It's still loading.
Yeah, 15 minutes left. Yeah, still 15 minutes left. But 100%.
By the way, you never get reboot completely. There's always a new upgrade that comes.
Yeah,
out.
but I guess it just shows I'm still human.
But we're all. So you never lose your humanity.
No? All right,
No.
I'm out of here. See?
Divine is something we are not, nor will we ever be. But it's kind of understanding that it's okay that. So even me, like you, and I've known Henry for a long time. Sometimes the way you look at me, like I have the same. So I deal with the same things that you just spoke about.
Yeah.
I've learned how to not relate to that part of, not to relate to those thoughts or feelings when they come up. Like I could pull back and literally just become, in essence, like I'm just this thing watching now. It's almost like there's no thought happening.
Your muscle is strong.
And it's a very odd place to be at first. Like there's no, like you're not really thinking about anything, but you're watching this feeling happen to you. You're watching this anxiety happen, this thought come into your mind that you could feel it's there. But there's this huge gap between you. And the more you practice it, the larger that gap becomes. And it's through meditation and through experience. The best teacher you could have is what happened to you.
It's hard knocks.
Any spiritual teacher will tell you, people who tend to suffer become the most enlightened because they have the opportunities to put that to work, to strengthen that, to help to expand that. People who believe that they don't suffer because they're so locked in with their mind and they just follow, yes, whatever you say, mind. Yes, that we're going to do that. We're going to do that. That's scary. I'm going to go there. Just don't bully me, mind, and basically I'm your slave. Those people they might not get there as quickly, or they might not have as many opportunities to practice it because they're not looking to. Somebody who has that suffering already. So if you're suffering with something, whether it's anxiety, depression, if you could say, I'm suffering, I know I am, there's already an awareness, like it's already there.
Yeah.
So that light switch is kind of being, the dimmer switch is gone from off to 1 and 2.
50%.
Now you have a dim light. There's something where you're looking around saying, I know I'm suffering. I know I'm suffering. I'm not suffering blindly. I know I'm suffering. I want to find a way that's better than this. Once you get to that point, then it's just about practicing it. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they won't talk about it because it's not,
Well, no, that's why I thought it was.
to say words like mental health is like a faux pas
That's
nowadays
why I thought it was
in
pertinent.
some people's eyes.
I thought it was. That's why I could have held this. The old me would have held this completely to myself. Nobody in this world would ever know that I had that happen. Nobody.
No, because you've become very good at
Nobody would know.
putting that facade on.
But I thought, we do this, and we want to share, whatever helped us, or in this case, you 0.5.
Yeah, whatever, wherever you are
You
in the
plus
path.
0.5. Exactly. Wherever you are in the path.
We're all on the same path.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Some people are a step ahead, some people are a step behind just because they've been
Yeah.
on that road
So
longer.
I just wanted to share this. I thought it was pertinent. And, okay, so my question to you is, okay, so there I am in my day. I even forget what I was doing, but there it is. Came up. I know that this isn't a car and you're not a mechanic, but what would you say would be a suggestion? Like, so if that ever happens and it comes out of nowhere, a good way to treat it would be to, what would be a
We're
good...
speaking about like an anxiety,
Correct. Something...
an intrusive,
intrusive
a
thought.
thought that provokes anxiety.
Correct. Something along these lines. What would be a decent approach, where you can say, first, so you don't go down the rabbit hole, because
Gotcha.
although you may be aware or half aware, it still grabbed me,
Absolutely.
and it was trying to pull me,
Oh, it's always going to try to grab you. I mean, certain people get to a certain point where it doesn't anymore, and that's great, right? And I think that that's something to try to attain. That's the whole point of this. But I mean, the first thing I would tell anybody, which is what I still do to this day, and I used to do back in the day when I first started. Whenever I would have an intrusive thought, now I'm going to use from my experience, right, with OCD, I would have an intrusive thought. The first thing I would do is take 5 deep, conscious breaths. 5, and counting them off in my head. Just 1, focusing on my breath. It gives me the chance, before my mind automatically grabs me and takes me on this, down the rabbit hole, it's a pause button. It's a built-in pause button that you have.
Okay.
You can hit pause, take these 5 breaths. It's going to allow you that space to kind of assess this thought that came up. Is it something that needs attention right now? If it's not something that needs attention right now, and if it's an intrusive thought, most of the times it doesn't need attention right now. It's a worry or a fear. If it was something that needed attention, the bear would be knocking your door down. You would know you have to run, right? The tiger's in the house. We have to get out.
Yeah.
The intruder broke through the window. Let's go. There's a fire. Let's call 911 and get out. Those instincts are going to kick in. When you have an intrusive thought, and so mine, like I said, mine were harm thoughts. I had intrusive harm thoughts when I was young, when I started with OCD, and they were about losing my mind. Like, I'm scared I'm going to lose my mind and I might go crazy. What if I go crazy and I hurt somebody? What am I? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And before you know it, you're 20 feet deep in a hole trying to prove to yourself that you're a nice person.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible place to be, because with every time you would tell yourself, oh, okay, wait, that doesn't mean anything, another question will come up. So taking those 5 breaths, it allows you to, this thought, is this a thought that's helpful in this moment? If it's an anxious thought, most times the answer is going to be no, it's not. And if it's not, you allow it to just, the allowing it to be there only comes to practice. There's really no, I mean, if you go to therapy and maybe you learn ACT, and you deal with a therapist who deals with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, they could teach you how to do that, like from a scientific, I guess, point of view. But for me, because I don't want to really give too much therapeutic advice, because we're not therapists. And my therapist told me this: take those 5 breaths. This is where I learned that. Take those 5 breaths. She goes, and she would tell me, is this a real emergency? That thought that you just had, is it an emergency, or is it just your mind trying to be, hey, John, don't forget, this is important. Wait, John, that thought you just had, what does it mean? What's going on? And you're going to see more often than not, you'll be able to take a step back from that and just kind of be able to allow it to sit there. Then you're going to have to deal with uncomfortable. There's an uncomfortable portion of it where, hey, the anxiety might have been triggered already. Once it's triggered, the anxiety is going to shut off like this, right? It's a process, right? All those chemicals start building up in your body. The heart starts
It's
racing.
almost like you've been here before.
The hands get sweaty. Now, it's not like you go off and the hands dry
Yeah.
up. The heart goes from 120, boom, to 84.
That's right.
No, the heart's got to go from 130 to 120 to 110 to 100. It's slowly, as everything kind of retreats back in your body, it's slowly, your body's going to calm down. So you got to be willing to sit there through those few minutes of uncomfortable feelings until your mind realizes this isn't important. Guys, it'll start shutting its systems down on its own. You can't slow, yeah, you stop breathing, you can slow your heart, you can pass out too. But it's hard for you to consciously just continuously slow your heart down. You could try to control a little bit, but when you're at that rate and that level of anxiety, if your heart's racing at 125 or 130, you can't really slow it down. You could allow your body to do it on its own by disengaging and just kind of, okay,
I'm going to assess the situation as successful, because a lot of what you talked and described,
yeah.
my ultimate result was that one. I was able to actually not monitor, because I wasn't monitoring anything, but I was feeling myself coming down.
Oh, you could feel it, sure.
Like I could feel myself relaxing.
It's almost like you feel a pressure, like a pressure valve is being released.
Yes.
And okay, all right, things just, you could feel things, the mind stream starts to slow down.
And I'll tell you what I did. So this was like almost immediately. This is, again, just trying to remember.
Yeah, sure.
So as I'm consciously feeling the coming down, I also, like mentally, of course, looked at it again. Said, what? Is this real? Am I really coming down? Like one of those? And so I kind of poked the thought again. Like I poked.
That's not bad.
You know what I'm saying? Like
that's actually.
I knocked on the door.
Yeah.
And
that's a great exercise in therapy.
And
absolutely.
I wasn't falling into the rabbit hole. It was one of those things like, okay, I'm okay, I'm good. And my heartbeat was good. And from that moment forward, I got caught up in just other things because I was literally working. So I just got caught up in other things.
So this next time this thought comes up, and I don't know what the thought is, but next time the thought comes up, or even better, when you're not thinking of it, what I used to do one of the exercises I used to have to do in therapy
Where are you going with this?
was this. Out of the blue, I'd have a timer on my phone that would go off. I'd set it for certain times of the day. This was what I was told to do. I didn't come up with this on my own. And when that timer went off, I'd have a card I had to read. And the card would have my intrusive thought written on it, right? Now this was done in therapy, guys, so just take it for that. I didn't do this on alone, and I'm not telling people to kind of go ahead and try to do these things on their own. If you're dealing with anything like this, please go get proper help from a real therapist who deals in the, and whatever you're kind of trying to navigate through. But I would read this card, and the point of it was for me to bring it up and be proactive. Be like, hey, mind, in case you forgot today, you haven't reminded me, you remember this thought?
You're poking the bear.
You're poking, but you're not poking, so it's, when you poke the bear, don't poke it like being a cocky idiot. You poke it like being, okay, yes, I might this might happen. The anxiety might come up, and if it does, exercise in dealing with it. If it doesn't, let it go. Don't question why didn't it come up, because then it's still dragging you down. It's kind of pulling you back in anyway. So that was an exercise I used to do. So like what you just said, like when you looked over and you're like, what, you still there?
Yeah.
That's basically it. But I would have to do it like multiple times a day on call, and then we would change it. It'd be another something I would write down, or I have to look at a picture, or I have to do some sort of an action with something to kind of try to provoke my anxiety, right? To kind of say, hey, I'm not trying to say I'm scared of you. I'm not trying to say I'm not scared of you. I'm not trying to bully you, anxiety. I'm telling you I'm here, and I know you might try to warn me about this.
You were honing a skill.
Yeah, you're honing a skill.
You're honing a skill, so that when it does happen, your skill is so sharp that you can easily,
Your mind is trying to protect you at every corner, every turn. It's always trying to protect you because that's what it's built to do, right? So whatever this thought was, it was brought up because it wanted to warn you.
Yes.
Your mind wants to warn you. But a lot of times these warnings, like I said, I think in our first episode, second episode, it's not actual smoke from a fire, it's water vapor.
Yeah.
And your alarm is thinking it's a fire. It says, holy crap, we got to tell Henry.
Yeah.
Holy crap, we got to tell Henry.
Yeah. No, I'm convinced that's exactly what it was. So you're right. Most of these thoughts are worries, or what was the other word? They're either worries or fears, something.
Fears,
Fears
yeah.
or worries, and that's exactly it. So it's a worry that's deep rooted, and it keeps wanting to come up and anxious me.
We always,
You know?
we're always going to have worries, whether they're about health, whether they're about family, whether about whatever.
Sure.
There's going to be worries. But if you allow that thought if you energize that thought constantly by always giving it attention, you just keep it around even more. You keep it around even more.
I'll be 100% honest here. I was super proud of how.
It sounds like you handled it.
Yeah, I was super proud of how I recouped.
Yeah, it sounds like you handled it really well.
Because I got tied to a car real quick. I took off. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on. So I may have used iffy techniques. I may have used iffy vocabulary.
Yes, and that's just me. And I'm not trying to nitpick, but that's because the more I say that, the more I hope whoever's listening on the other end of this microphone, or you, or whoever it is, hears it and goes, even changing the language actually makes the process better because you're reframing it when you change the language. There's a whole chapter. I keep saying, I say this a lot, and I promise the books will come out soon. There's a whole chapter where language is huge. The things we say, how we say them, could reframe the situation completely. I'm not in a fight with you. I'm accepting that you're here.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to push you away because you're just going to want to push back.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to open the door and let you in.
Yeah.
And that's it.
No, it was very good. It was successful.
Yeah.
And as you know, I haven't seen a therapist in, I don't know, 13 years maybe.
Yeah,
so,
that's good.
So,
listen, if it's not something that's required, that's great.
Yeah.
That's absolutely great.
No, I thought it was great. And so, reason for my story, if you're in the car and you're listening to this or anything that you're doing, and you found yourself in my shoes as I told that story, I hope you get some benefit out of what John was suggesting and talking about, and some benefit into what I was saying, because again, I'm here next to John and I'm learning, as I go, and I thought that was pretty good. I thought I had a good.
I think you did a very masterful job with that.
Easy.
No, so it's this. When somebody says, and I know that's not the point you were trying to make before, when you said. I think you said, I failed at the meditation or something like that.
Yes, I tried to meditate and I failed.
Yeah. And you failed. So I think you were approaching that meditation with the purpose of getting something out of it right away. So when you want to meditate in the middle of an anxiety attack, it's never going to be easy.
You're right.
Because your body is on full alert. So it's like, I'm in a house that's on fire. Let me just sit on the floor and cross my legs.
Yeah.
It's your mind's going to be like, bro, I can't focus on my breath right now. You just keep bringing it back to that. Bro, I can't focus on the breath right now. You just keep bringing it back to that. So you can do it. It's going to be way more difficult than when you have a clear mind. When the mind is calm and clear, it's easy to meditate. But the best work I've ever had in meditation, the most I've ever gotten out of meditation for me has been when it's a dark, cloudy sky and I'm in the middle of a hurricane. That's when I have gotten the most out of it. That's when I feel the difference in the meditation. Like as erratic as it feels, I could feel I'm actually working at something. I could feel I'm actually putting an effort into regaining this presence and getting that space back. When things are calm, it's easy to go.
But would you say that success is because you're also trained, experienced?
I'm talking about when I first started.
When you first started?
Yeah, when I first started, same thing. I couldn't focus, so I would just refocus. Wait a second. 2 seconds later.
So just keep insisting.
In a 5-minute meditation, I would have refocused 600 times.
Okay.
It's not like the thought stops. Came back in. I heard the thought.
So
I saw
brute
it.
force.
Brute force. Allow it to be there and just recenter to where you want your focus to be.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Henry, don't forget to worry about X.
Got it.
On my breath. If you wanted to meditate there, if you wanted to say, I'm going to listen, I'm having a little bit of an anxiety attack. I'm going to try to center myself right now. But don't forget, my heart's racing. We might pass out. Deep breath in, let it out. But John, in. You have the ability to refocus. That's your choice.
Okay.
That's the control you actually have, is where you go like this. You take the flashlight and go,
I got it.
Flashlight's here.
I got it.
No, flashlight's here. No. And you just, but in the beginning, you're bringing it back thousands of times.
That is meditation. That's not succeeding or failing at it. That is meditation.
Okay.
Working on that focus.
Okay, so this is a stupid comparison, but, as they say.
There's no stupid comparison.
As they say, humor me. Water bottle.
Yes.
The water bottle is the thought. Thought is right in front of me, right here.
Mm-hmm.
My first attempt was this. Hey, get out of here, water bottle.
Tried to push
And
it
you're
away.
saying is, leave the water bottle there.
Hi, water bottle.
Hey, water bottle. But the water bottle, yeah, don't worry about it. And then just keep refocus. But you're
Yeah.
here. I'm not trying to push it away to somewhere else.
No. You ever hold the balloon? I think we've talked about it. You ever sitting in a pool? You have one of those floaty balls or like one of these basketballs. Hold it underwater. Hold it.
Yeah.
What happens when you finally get tired and let go?
Yeah.
What's it going to do?
That sucker's coming back out.
It's going to smack you right in the face. Instead, you know what you do? Put the balloon on top of the water, and what's going to happen? Eventually, it's going to do this. The ripples will take it away on its own. It might sit in front of you for a minute or two,
Yeah.
and then here comes a wave or here comes a little current, and it starts to pull it away gradually. Holding it under is just going to make it hit you in the face again.
I say pop it.
When we master that part, I will make sure to let everybody know how to pop it. Just go. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. But listen, that was a great.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want anybody to have to go. You don't want people to go through that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think that's where you learn the most.
Well, I went through it, and I need to share it. And if people can get benefit, I can tell you that I not only got benefit from the situation, I got benefit from talking about the situation, and I got benefit again reinforcing, learning. This is really, the skill I'm
Yeah.
trying to develop. This is the skill I'm trying to.
Well, yeah, it's a skill you're trying to develop, but remember, I always say it's a continuous practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I do every day, I had breakfast with a friend of mine this morning. I was telling you before we started recording, my friend Lewis, who I've spoken to him a couple times since the start of the podcast because he was very interested in it. And today, in conversation, it came up how there's this, he feels, and I agreed with him, how there's as much as mental health is being spoken about, it's still a huge stigma around it.
Yeah.
Most people I know in my life, if I said to them, listen, are you dealing with any mental health issues? The resounding answer is going to be, bro, no.
Yeah. What?
Whatever. I got this. I'm good.
What am I crazy?
When am I crazy? So, and that's fine. I'm not trying to, out anybody. I'm not trying to do any of that. But there is still a lot of people who, on the other end of this microphone, might be listening right now.
Yeah.
And to them, they're saying, I hear you. I understand what you guys are talking about. Oh my God, I can relate to this. But I don't want myself to be out there. And not that you have to be out there. And I don't want you to, if you're not comfortable talking about your story or putting yourself out there, don't. But try to reframe it in your own mind. There is nothing wrong if you have a struggle. Instead of trying to deny that struggle, accept that you're struggling with something because as human beings, we all struggle on a daily basis. Until we become divine, universal energy again,
Yep.
when our time is gone, then, okay, the human struggle ends. But until then, we're all going to struggle with things. Accept that you have that struggle and instead work to. Not snap your fingers, not ignore, not push away. Work to make it a better life situation for yourself by doing things, whether it's meditation or listening to a podcast or reading a book by, or taking a course in acceptance commitment therapy or finding a life coach who deals with stuff like this. There's so many avenues where people can help you reframe things,
Yeah.
where you can let go of these struggles that you think you have. Because, like I said, situations are situations, but only we can, this isn't me, this Eckhart Tolle said this, and when I heard this sentence the first time, I loved it. He goes, a situation is just a situation. Only you could make it a problem.
Yeah.
Because a problem now, you've put a story around it. You're allowing the thinking mind to create a story around something that happened.
That is so right.
Yeah, no, it's as simple as it sounds.
I lived it. I lived it this week.
Yeah, man, that's great. I mean, it's not great that you lived it,
Yeah.
but it's great. It's great in a way. It's great that you did live it. It's
Yeah.
great that you did have that experience.
This is great. No, this
So-
is awesome.
No, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, sharing
know?
is caring.
Yeah, sharing is caring. So, and that's what we try to do. So,
I think we should wrap it up because
yeah, or else we'll end up going
Yeah.
long again.
I mean-
And we really do try to keep them around 35, 40 minutes, but unfortunately, we start talking and we stop looking at the clock. We don't have a producer on the other end talking to us going, cut
Well,
it.
Baba
You know,
Booey?
Baba Booey's not there. You know, we don't have Baba Booey on the side cutting it in, and they're playing music and giving us our cut sheet to read the commercial, so.
We gotta get a Baba Booey.
Someday, maybe, we'll see.
Oh, man.
All right, so we'll close this one up.
Yeah, John, thank you, man.
No, thank you, Henry, for sharing, actually.
That was great.
It's not easy to put yourself out
Yeah,
there.
I didn't give you the details, but
It's
I-
not
I-
easy,
I
it's not
gave you
easy,
a
yeah,
little-
but, so the details aren't important,
Yeah.
right? It's not the detail of what the thought was.
Right.
And if somebody's not comfortable saying that, then that's fine. But you still said, I had this experience.
right.
And I can guarantee you, if 50 people download this episode next week, half of those people, at least minimum half, if not 3/4 of them,
Right.
have had an experience like that, and they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, so I'll do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's close this one out with we usually do a quiet meditation this time. So guys, for the next minute, everything we've spoken about in this last hour, allow it to be there. Don't try to replay any of it. Just take some continued breath in and breath out for the next 60 seconds, and then I'll come back on and close it out. One last one. Open your eyes, guys, and thank you very much. We will catch you on the flip side.
Yep, thank you. See you
All
guys
right,
on
see
the
you
next
guys
one.
later. Take care, man.